Okay, let's challenge a massive leadership myth right out of the gate. If your team seems to completely lack autonomy, it is incredibly common to just assume they're short on skills, right? We tend to think, well, they just aren't good enough, so we decide we have to step in and guide them through every single little step. But what if they aren't lacking skills at all? In this explainer, we're going to unpack the absolutely fascinating concept of learned helplessness in the workplace.
So the crucial question we really need to start with requires a total pivot in how we think. We shouldn't be asking why individuals don't take initiative. Honestly, that just blames the person. Instead, we need to ask, what has the organizational system taught them? Because literally every behavior we see at work is heavily influenced by the environment where it was reinforced.
And, it often looks exactly like this. A person sitting there, entirely passive, while the whole organization moves frantically around them. Well-meaning leaders see this passivity and they immediately assume they must step in and micromanage. But they entirely miss the point. This isn't incompetence. It's actually a learned habit. The system has inadvertently trained them to just sit still.
Now, this next part is absolutely fascinating. If you walk through your office and you happen to hear this specific phrase, let's wait and see what the boss says. Pay really close attention. You are witnessing a crisis of perceived influence, not competence. Your people simply no longer believe they have the agency to actually impact outcomes.
Let's look at the psychology behind this for a second. Back in the late 1960s, psychologist Martin Seligman described a phenomenon he called learned helplessness. He discovered that when people repeatedly experience situations where their actions produce absolutely zero effect, they simply stop trying. The brain literally learns that taking initiative is totally useless, so it just shuts that drive right down.
Think of it kind of like being placed in a maze with absolutely no exit. When individuals are repeatedly exposed to adverse situations where they have a total lack of control, it completely extinguishes their drive. And honestly, the most shocking part? That passivity persists even when conditions finally change and a door actually opens. The repeated experience of futility has effectively frozen them in place.
Right, so how does this actually build up at work? Well, it doesn't happen overnight. It happens through this slow, quiet accumulation of micro-experiences. It's the boss constantly hovering over your shoulder. It's systematically overriding a team member's decisions, or swooping in to save the day at the very first sign of difficulty. Repeated over time, these actions all teach the exact same lesson. There's absolutely no point in trying.
Now, the crucial point here really lies in two scientific concepts: self-efficacy and locus of control. Psychologist Albert Bandura defined self-efficacy as our belief in our own ability to succeed. Then Julian Rotter introduced the locus of control. People with an internal locus believe outcomes depend on their own actions, right? But those with an external locus point to outside forces. Learned helplessness violently shifts a person's locus to the external, making them feel entirely at the mercy of the system.
When folks get stuck in this state, they adopt what's known as the 3 Ps explanatory style. First, they believe the problem has permanence, meaning things are never going to change around here. Second, they believe it has pervasiveness, thinking we can't count on anything across this entire company. And finally, personalization, concluding, well, if my ideas fail, it must be because I'm just not good enough.
And the organizational cost of leaving people in this state, it is simply immense. As Robert Karasek's demand control model documents, if you combine high work demands, a ton of things to get done, with this helpless lack of control over the outcomes, it is a literal recipe for disaster. It directly leads to severe chronic stress, deep anxiety, and completely destroyed performance. In today's fast-changing world, having a helpless team is a massive competitive fragility.
But hey, here is the fantastic news. Because this helplessness is learned, it can absolutely be unlearned. The Happywise approach breaks this recovery down into 4 super clean pillars. First up, plus being, recovering your sense that you actually can impact reality. Second, plus we, realizing that autonomy grows within safe relationships. Third, plus discipline, practicing autonomy through small, daily habits. And finally, plus positive chemistry, consciously stepping out of a defensive state so your creativity can finally return.
As these 4 professional pillars take root in your leadership style, you're going to witness a massive recovery of frozen energy. It's incredible. Mentally, team intelligence unlocks. Emotionally, psychological safety and trust just spike. Physically, the sheer exhaustion that was previously consumed by hypervigilance drops dramatically. And spiritually, people recover this profound sense of responsibility and belonging, because at the end of the day, reversing this downward spiral isn't just about telling people, hey, I trust you.
It's about creating consistent mastery experiences where they can actually feel that trust in action. So I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought to examine in your own workplace today. Look really closely at the micro experiences happening in your office. Is your leadership system intentionally teaching initiative, or is it accidentally teaching helplessness?